Sophie Cunningham. Oh man, I got to tell you, this victory it came with a big price. Bree Hartley, let me just start there.
Dirty Bria, of course. It had to be a dirty Bria. I would really hate to see ya.
When Sophie Cunningham went down, the entire game changed in an instant. What should have been a routine matchup turned into chaos that looked more like a stunt show than professional basketball. And here's the thing, this wasn't just another injury. This was tears, lawsuits, finger-pointing, and an avalanche of outrage that hit harder than any foul on the court. The WNBA says it wants fans to respect the product, but how can anyone take it seriously when one reckless play derails not just a season, but an entire league's credibility? Fans tuned in expecting buzzer beaters. Instead, they got a circus of broken bodies, useless referees, and a commissioner hiding behind silence. And the wildest part? Nobody seems willing to admit what everyone saw with their own eyes. Sophie Cunningham wasn't just unlucky, she was targeted.
I don't know how much longer the Indiana Fever can continue to survive with these injuries. I just have to be honest.
The Indiana Fever were supposed to cruise through this game. They were facing one of the worst teams in the league, a team that had no business pushing them to the brink. On paper, it should have been easy. But instead, the Fever fell behind by 20 points, looking lost, disorganized, and on the verge of embarrassment. That's when Kelsey Mitchell stepped up and delivered a second-half performance for the ages. She erupted like a one-woman army, dragging the Fever back into the fight and forcing overtime. Eventually, the Fever pulled off a miracle comeback win.
I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too. I'm so proud of you guys. Tribute to you. It's a tribute to your connectedness, your togetherness, your toughness, your mindset. Your never give up gritty attitudes. Like, that's what it takes.
But here's the truth. Nobody's talking about that scoreboard. The comeback, as incredible as it was, is already forgotten. Because while the Fever clawed their way back, the bigger story was unfolding right in front of everyone's eyes. Sophie Cunningham, the glue of the team, the fighter who carried this roster when Caitlin Clark and others were out, was suddenly down, clutching her leg and clearly in pain. 1 second she was hustling like always, the next she was the victim of what looked less like a basketball play and more like a wrestling takedown. That moment turned what should have been a feel-good comeback story into an ugly chapter the league may never live down. When fans first saw the replay of Sophie Cunningham's collapse, the reaction was almost unanimous. That wasn't basketball. Bria Hartley came crashing down on her like a human wrecking ball, and no amount of excuses could hide how reckless it was. The WNBA loves to package its product as polished and professional, but what happened to Sophie looked more like a scene from WWE than a playoff-level basketball game. Forget about boxing out or fighting for position, this was a full-grown athlete diving across another player's leg with the kind of force that could end a career in a split second.
We lost Sydney Colston to a torn ACL. Ari McDonald broken bone in her foot. Caitlin Clark has played like 12 games all year or something like that. DeWanna Bonner scammed us. I mean, it's been a complete shit show.
And let's be real here. This wasn't a simple slip or an awkward landing. The body language told the whole story. Hartley's lunge didn't look accidental. It looked desperate, clumsy, and dangerous. By the time she hit the floor, it was Sophie's knee that paid the price. You could see the pain on her face instantly, the kind of grimace that every athlete fears because it signals something much worse than a bruise. Fans at home didn't need slow motion to figure out what had happened. They knew right away this wasn't just unlucky, it was dirty. Even worse, the league tried to brush it off as if it was just a tough play. Tough play? Please. Nobody confuses a box out with a flying tackle. Nobody mistakes rebounding for a pile drive across someone's leg. Sophie Cunningham went from being a competitor to being collateral damage in a split second. And the replay doesn't lie. That fall was dirty, reckless, and indefensible. Every team has that one player who holds everything together. For the Indiana Fever, that's Sophie Cunningham.
She's not always the flashiest player on the court, but what she brings in toughness, grit, and leadership can't be measured on a stat sheet. When Caitlin Clark missed time earlier this season, it was Sophie who stepped into the spotlight, refusing to let the team collapse. She became the glue, diving for loose balls, hitting big shots, and setting the tone with her relentless energy. Fans loved her because she represented everything the Fever were supposed to be: resilient, fearless, and impossible to intimidate. So when Sophie went down, clutching her leg, the air was sucked out of the arena. This wasn't just another player leaving the floor, it was the heartbeat of the team suddenly silenced. Her teammates knew it too. You could see it in their faces. For a roster already plagued by injuries, Clark's absences, Sydney Colson's torn ACL, Ari McDonald's broken foot, losing Sophie was like removing the last piece of duct tape holding the whole thing together. Without her, the Fever aren't just short a player, they're missing their emotional anchor.
And that's exactly why this injury feels like more than just bad luck. It feels cruel. Sophie had been playing some of her best basketball, pushing through pain, refusing to quit even when the odds stacked against her. Now, she's forced to the sidelines because of one reckless moment that never should have happened. For fans, it's devastating. For the team, it's catastrophic. And for Sophie, it's heartbreak on the hardest stage. What makes this whole situation even worse is that Bria Hartley's name is not new when it comes to reckless play. This isn't some rookie mistake or a one-off bad decision. Fans have been calling her out for years, and Sophie Cunningham's injury just poured gasoline on a fire that was already burning. The moment Hartley collided with Sophie's leg, people didn't just say, "What a freak accident." They said, "Of course it was Bria Hartley." That's the reputation she's built, someone whose physical style crosses the line from tough to dirty.
Even Sophie's family wasn't buying the excuse. Her mother and sister both came forward, voicing their frustration with the league and pointing fingers directly at Hartley. And they're not alone. Watch social media and you'll see the same sentiment echoed again and again. Hartley plays reckless and the league keeps letting her get away with it. She's been compared to other notorious WNBA enforcers like DeJounte Carrington, but the difference is simple. Hartley doesn't get the same level of scrutiny. Maybe it's because she plays for a team with a smaller spotlight. Maybe it's because the league would rather sweep incidents under the rug than deal with them head-on. Either way, the pattern is clear. The truth is, if this had been an isolated incident, people might have been more forgiving. But when you've built a track record of questionable plays, you don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. Hartley's collision with Sophie Cunningham wasn't just clumsy, it looked like the continuation of a career-long habit. And now, Sophie may lose a season because of it. If Hartley's fall was the crime, then the referees were the accomplices. Because the moment Sophie Cunningham hit the floor writhing in pain, the officials had a chance to take control of the game. Instead, they froze. No whistle, no foul, no tech, nothing. It was like watching mall cops stand around while the fight breaks out in the food court. Bad uniforms, no authority, and zero action when it mattered most. For fans, it was infuriating. For players, it was a betrayal. Basketball is supposed to have rules. The referees are there to enforce those rules, not to stand around like cardboard cutouts with whistles around their necks. Yet somehow, in a moment where everyone in the building could see that something dangerous had just happened, the people tasked with protecting the players acted like nothing was wrong. That silence spoke volumes. It told players that their safety wasn't a priority. It told fans that accountability doesn't exist. And it told Hartley that reckless behavior comes with no real consequences. Imagine if this exact same incident happened in the NBA. The whistle would have blown instantly. Replays would be shown 100 times. Commentators would be dissecting intent versus accident. And more often than not, the guilty player would be ejected before the sweat even dried. But in the WNBA, crickets, just another unfortunate play, written off as part of the game. The truth is, Sophie Cunningham's injury wasn't just about Hartley's recklessness. It was about the referee's cowardice. And when officials fail this spectacularly, the whole league loses credibility. If the referees were guilty of cowardice, then the commissioner was guilty of silence. In moments like these, leadership is supposed to step up, deliver a message, and reassure players and fans that safety matters. Instead, the league's top office pulled a disappearing act. No statement, no warning, no accountability, just silence. And in sports, silence is not neutral. It's an endorsement of the status quo.
Think about it. The WNBA has been begging the public to take them seriously, pushing for more visibility, more respect, more legitimacy. But when one of its most valuable players gets bulldozed in front of thousands of fans at a national TV audience, the commissioner hides. That's not leadership, that's negligence wrapped in a press pass. And every day the league fails to act, the message gets louder. The WNBA doesn't protect its own. Compare this to the NBA, NFL, or even college basketball. One reckless fall that threatens a player's career, and you'd see suspensions, fines, and press conferences addressing safety protocols. But in the WNBA, the commissioner acts like she's auditioning for a mannequin challenge, frozen in place while the league crumbles around her. The fish rots from the head, and right now, the stench is undeniable. The players notice it, the fans notice it, and worst of all, the media notices it. Instead of coverage about Sophie's hustle or the Fever's comeback, headlines are now about chaos, recklessness, and incompetence at the top. The commissioner's silence isn't just disappointing, it's damning. And here's where the damage gets even worse, because when players lose trust in the league, it's bad. But when the fans lose trust, it's fatal. Right now, fans are angry, not just frustrated, not just upset, angry. They're calling for suspensions, they're demanding accountability, and in some corners of the internet, they're even saying the WNBA doesn't deserve to exist if this is how it operates. That's how far the credibility has fallen. It's not hyperbole either. Fans aren't tuning in to see demolition derbies or wrestling takedowns. They're here for buzzer beaters, rivalries, and jaw-dropping athleticism. But when the league allows reckless plays to slide, the product stops being basketball. It becomes a liability dressed up in jerseys. Fans are smart enough to know the difference, and they're not afraid to call it out. Just imagine this scenario in the NBA. A star player gets flattened, the refs swallow their whistles, and the commissioner says nothing. Sports talk shows would explode. Social media would demand justice. The league would move quickly to save face. But in the WNBA, the response is so muted that fans feel gaslit, like their outrage isn't valid. And nothing drives fans away faster than feeling like their voices don't matter. The bottom line, fans are the lifeblood of any sport. They buy the tickets, the jerseys, the merch. They fuel the entire machine. And right now, they're being shown that player safety, and by extension their trust, means absolutely nothing. Once fans check out, good luck getting them back. Here's what makes Sophie Cunningham's injury so devastating. It's not just about her, or the Fever, or even this one game. It's about the ripple effect. Losing Sophie hurts the Fever's season, no question, but it also hurts the league's credibility, the fans' trust, and the broader fight for women's sports to be respected. Every time an incident like this goes unpunished, the message is clear. This league doesn't protect its stars. And once that narrative sticks, it's almost impossible to shake.
Think about Sophie herself. She's built her reputation on toughness, on playing through pain, on refusing to back down. She didn't ask to be a martyr for league incompetence, yet here she is, sidelined because someone else decided recklessness was acceptable. The human cost of that goes beyond box scores. It's her career, her health, and her future on the line, all because the league failed to enforce its own standards. And let's not forget the team. The Fever were already juggling injuries, already scraping for consistency, already under the microscope because of Caitlin Clark's stardom. Sophie was the steady hand, the glue. Without her, the team is even more vulnerable. That ripple spreads outward. Fans lose interest, games lose competitiveness, and the entire product suffers. In the end, this isn't just about one injury. It's about a league-wide betrayal of what sports are supposed to stand for. Fairness, safety, competition. Without those, you don't have a sport, you have chaos. And that chaos is threatening to consume everything the WNBA has tried to build.
So where does that leave us? One reckless play, one injured star, a team scrambling without its leader. referees who froze when it mattered most, a commissioner who chose silence over action, and fans who are fed up with excuses. Put all of that together, and you get the collapse of trust. Because at the end of the day, basketball is supposed to be simple. 2 teams, 1 court, fair competition. But what happened to Sophie Cunningham stripped away that simplicity? It revealed a league that doesn't enforce its rules, doesn't protect its players, and doesn't value the trust of its fans. And once trust is broken, it's nearly impossible to repair.
Sophie's name should be in headlines for her hustle, her shooting, and her leadership. Instead, she's a headline because she became a crash landing zone in a league too weak to stop it. That's the insult on top of injury. The guilty player escapes with excuses. The referees escape with paychecks. The commissioner escapes with silence. And Sophie pays the price. So here's the haunting question that fans are now asking. If Sophie Cunningham can be taken out like this, with 0 consequences, then what does the WNBA even stand for anymore? Until the league finds an answer, the credibility it's fighting for will keep slipping away, one reckless play at a time.